And the ears started ringing with last night's rehearsal. Guitarist Slash and bass player Duff strutted their stuff without lead singer Axl Rose, still yet to make a public appearance since his arrival in Sydney on Thursday. This morning, fans started queuing at the three main entrance gates at first light. By midday, half the expected crowd of 80,000 had already arrived.
This is actually one of the most organised events I think we've been to. It's a big, big show. It's now the biggest show in Australia ever. It's broken all records.
So far, like I said, the people have been great. The fans are really doing what we asked of them. They're coming in very orderly. Hopefully they're protecting themselves from the heat, because that's a big factor today.
Despite police fears and the stifling heat, the fans were on their best behaviour.
We haven't had any arrests. The feeling in the crowd is very light, very jovial. Not having alcohol is probably the smartest thing I've ever done in my life.
The use of drugs is also being closely monitored, but the fans could never curb their addiction to the antics of Axl Rose. When Guns N' Roses hit the stage at 8 o'clock tonight, Axl Rose will be getting the sort of reception he could hardly expect from the mothers of his adoring fans. This boy is bad, and he doesn't live next door. What does your mother think of Axl Rose?
Oh, well, my mum wanted to buy my ticket off me so I wouldn't come.
You sure you wouldn't rather be at the cricket?
No way.
Cricket sucks.
It'll be remembered as a day of heavy metal mayhem, with the support program featuring Pearls and Swine, Skid Row, and Australian headbangers Rose Tattoo. Channel 7's cameras were allowed backstage to film last-minute preparations in the calm before the storm. Ross, the concert is due to kick off in just under 2 hours. The band does have a reputation for being late at times. That shouldn't happen tonight, with a noise curfew in force after 11 o'clock. The American group's invasion began with their arrival at the Qantas jet base on Wednesday night with enough security to protect the President of the United States. Apart from 500 tons of equipment, they had the heavy luggage of a reputation for drug abuse, violent antics and misogynism. But there was no evidence of that sinister behaviour at the media conference held the day after their arrival at Sydney's plush Ritz-Carlton Hotel. There wasn't a smashed television set in sight. They greeted Sydney's scribes with good humour and patience, uncharacteristic of the egos they are supposed to have.
I mean, when it comes down to it, when you get back to your room and you get, let's see, you're off the stage and you have to function just like anybody else, and you can't believe in your own hype and think that you're any more special than anybody else, because it just doesn't work.
Not even the potentially explosive presence of the niggling Norman Gunston could rattle the band's bassist and lead guitarist.
You write songs about sort of depravity, murder, racism, drug abuse, and millions of impressionable teenagers buy these songs. You haven't got one to spare, have you? You named the band after me, but didn't you? Guns N' Roses.
Do you want to get up here?
Izzy's not... Izzy... sorry, hang on, let me get this straight. Izzy quit the band, but Dizzy's still with the band, is that right?
Yeah.
What about Sleepy, Doc and Grumpy?
I got to give you credit. What can I say?
On a more serious note, they denied their sort of music was poison for the ears of a whole generation. In the 1960s, it was the Rolling Stones. 30 years later, you wouldn't want to be introducing your mother to Guns N' Roses, but the band members insist they'd probably make Mum a cup of tea.
I understand that Guns N' Roses carries sort of a bad boy kind of image. That was something that was stuck on us. That was a label that was put. We didn't ask for it. I mean, you know, granted, we are a rock and roll band and we've been through a lot of stuff. I think as far as our, the general image from the kids' perspective is that we're pretty down to earth and realistic, and I think they relate to us on a pretty sensible level.
They consider their craft to be nothing other than a serious business, evidenced by the intensity of Friday night's rehearsal. The Eastern Creek Raceway usually roars with the thunder of motorcycles, but the loudest Honda would have been drowned in the deafening decibels of Slash's guitar. At first light on Saturday morning, the fans were already queuing for the best vantage points. The stage was awesome in itself. the size of a 4-storey building, wide and computerised for a state-of-the-art show of spectacular light and sound.
This lighting rig here holds 900 lights, so it's a pretty amazing light show. It's pretty much been designed for all the band. I mean, they all utilise the ramps, everybody jumps. You'll see sort of Slash will come up and jump off the side of the ramp.
By midday, more than half the crowd had arrived, and despite police fears of bedlam, there would be only 6 arrests for drunken behaviour after they managed to slip through the tight security into the alcohol-free venue. The sobriety augured well for the staging of other events on the same giant scale, and not just rock concerts.
There's a lot riding on it for us and also for Sydney. You know, this has got to help the Olympic Games a bit a lot if we pull this off trouble-free, and I think we're odds on now to do that. Touch, knock on wood.
The band upheld its reputation for late arrivals, but it was worth waiting for the heavy metal explosion, and 80,000 fans were happy to be hit by the shrapnel.
Say, live and let die.
The dosage will be just as heavy in Melbourne tonight, but police in Victoria can take heart. If Sydney has been any indication, it won't be an overdose. Adam Walters for 11am.
Say, live and let die.
For fans of the band labelled the biggest hard rockers in the world, it was everything they'd dreamt and more. At the biggest gig Australia has ever seen, it was well worth a wait extended by 45 minutes, the Gunners living up to their reputation for being late on stage. The only ones who failed to meet expectations, the fans themselves. In a crowd of more than 80,000, there were only 4 arrests. During the show, the First Aid Centre treated less than 50 people for minor complaints. Dawn revealed surprisingly little damage and few sore heads. The lack of alcohol, just one of the factors singled out for praise by organisers.
I'm very proud of all my people and everybody who's been involved. I mean, it's a big challenge for us, and there's a lot riding on it for us and also for Sydney. You know, this has got to help the Olympic Games a bit a lot.
For the much maligned Eastern Creek, it was an important test, having passed that with hardly a hitch and basking in comparisons with London's Wembley Stadium. Organisers are setting their sights on a repeat performance.
We will certainly like to pursue the outdoor entertainment on the concert site, and you know, we'll be negotiating with a number of people in future.
Among the names being thrown around, Madonna and Bruce Springsteen. On the other side of town, the crowd was a little more subdued, but just as big. Another 80,000 people crammed into the Domain for the last of the Festival of Sydney's free concerts, Midsummer Jazz. Jeff Bruce, 7 Nightly News.